Dr. Randall, the Soul Doctor, author of Soul Doctoring, Heal Yourself, Heal the Planet, shares her 40 years of experience as a cross-cultural practitioner, medical futurist, and expert in 20 different modalities of healing, along with amazing interviews with some of the leading minds in medicine and big thinkers in all walks of life. The stories of our lives are the woven energies of our soul's paths. They feed and ignite the spiritual light that nourishes the universal soul, the one mind, the cosmic consciousness where we all come together. This podcast is going to be a deep dive into the personal stories of people who have made significant contributions to the planet. What formed them? What moved them to become these leaders and innovators that inspire us so? Hi, Jamie.
Hi, how are you?
We finally made it.
Yes, our magic together.
It's it. A little bit of your witchcraft, a little bit of my Native American shamanism, and we did it. Finally.
Magic abounds.
So you're a pretty amazing lady. I've been reading about you. You've written what, 9 books or something?
Yeah, 9 books.
9 books, and they're all kind of centered around witchcraft, or
actually about what do I want to say? 6 of them are centered around witchcraft, and 3 of them are centered on my Hispanic culture, my Mexican heritage.
Oh, that's right. You told me that. That's wonderful. Did those come later, or
they were all woven throughout?
Oh, nice.
I do a couple on magic, and then something on being Mexican, and something on being magical, and something else. But magic and Mexican, they go together too.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask you. So there is a lot of this in the Mexican Latino sort of culture.
At least Dia de los Muertos for definitely, and there's a lot of brujeria included in small.
Awesome. So. Is that in your family at all, or?
I was the first really to pick it up. I would say, my mom was always kind of dabbling. She went to Catholic school, and she couldn't decide if she wanted to be a witch or a nun because both had power. So I think that only
and sacredness, right?
And sacred, except for she was 15, so she was just seeking power. But at the time. But anyways, I was my Nana, who actually wasn't Mexican, but she was my other Nana, and she was a psychic tarot reader. So I always heard about portals like 1111 and doorways, the world between the worlds, and soul families, and so many different aspects of alternative spirituality that were reading energy that was passed down to me from a very early age.
Nice. So in your 9 books, of course, you learn so much when you write a book. I know, just having published one, that you must have really blossomed through writing those.
Definitely especially the Book of Spells, which is my most recent book. It was originally published as the Teen Spell Book, and I wrote that book at the end of my Saturn's return. So if your listeners aren't familiar with the Saturn's return, it begins at age around 27, and it starts at an age around 27, 26 and a half, 27, and goes till about age 23 or 33. So about 5 years or so, when Saturn, the planet of discipline, just kind of sits on you and basically takes away all everything you've relied upon, everything you thought was so important with truth, with a small t. But then once all these things get taken away, maybe your youth, because you're no longer in your 20s, or something else, you're relying upon somebody or something or some skill, and it gets taken away. So you get stripped down to who you truly are. And at that age, I realized that I was carrying around too much pain from my formative years. And the way that I wanted to go through that, because I've always been a writer, is to write about it. So I wrote spells and visualizations and affirmations to pull my fragmented self out of the past and bring her into here and now, being that mother to myself, that older sister, that auntie, that magical mentor to my own self, to my own fragmented and untended soul. And I brought that and in moments when we experience pain, we leave our bodies for a moment, and we kind of drift off, whether we're being abused or just mistreated. There are times, or scared, there are times that we kind of ascend out of that, and yet we need to go back and find that part of ourselves. And so I was playing old music, music that I had listened to in my teen years, my young 20s, and reading my old diaries to really remember who that person was so that I could bring myself back to wholeness. So that's definitely something I learned with that book, for certain.
Yeah. Wow. That's really magical. That really resonates for me, because what I learned about Saturn return was that it could actually be up to your 40s, and that it's about coming into your power. And you have to give up all that old stuff that is no longer serving you in order to do that. You have to become that authentic part of you to really come into your power. And I that's what I'm hearing with what you're saying.
That's definitely what it was. And also, accepting what had happened. Because a lot of times we get stuck in a spiral circle, and an obsession of wishing it had been different, but we can't unring the bell. Whatever has happened, and it is now part of us. And to really hate or detest or be bitter about things that have happened is in a way being disrespectful to who we have become.
Yes.
Because we are stronger because of everything we've gone through.
Right. My thing is always find the gift in it. Find the gift in it. Of course, I'm in medicine, so it's always find the gift in the illness. But in any sort of process we go through is a healing process, even if it's just us, and find the gift in it. And that's what'll take you forward. Even if it's just the most rotten, horrible thing that ever happened to you, seemingly there's a gift in there.
Yeah, I had one of my books was called The Enchanted Diary. I wanted to include my kids were at a Waldorf school, and I was allowed to come in and talk to the 8th graders and give them a writing assignment. And the writing assignment was describe an event that happened that at the time you wished it never had happened, but there was a gift, as you say, a hidden gift inside of it, something you've come out because of that experience. And so all the students wrote an essay, and I chose a couple and had those published in one of my books called The Enchanted Diary. And just for that purpose, especially I think when we're coming of age and and we are immersed in our emotions and our hormones, and we're not seeing the gift, we're only seeing the pain, but it's that shifting of the positive, that shifting of how can we evolve our consciousness through this experience. That's, for me, what is part of the Wiccan way of witchcraft. That isn't necessarily everybody's take on witchcraft. This idea that we are really looking for meaning and fulfillment and our role within the universe, that isn't necessarily part of everyone's path, but it's a deep, deep part of mine. The shamanistic approach, the priestess approach, not just rote memorization of, okay, so blue represents calm and red represents energy, and this crystal means this and this herb means that. Memorizing the correspondences of magic really doesn't make you a witch, but living it every day is what encompasses a witchy life.
Of course. Walking your talk is part of everything.
Yeah.
I saw something, I think it was on your website or somewhere, about a course that you teach on actually creating witchcraft or creating spells.
Yes.
And what I was struck by when I saw the different basics, which I'm going to ask you to unpack for us a little bit.
Okay.
Was how similar it was to Native American medicine, because I've spent years and years in that, and that there was a lot of, especially the 4 directions, that struck me, but even other things like, setting the circle, for instance. We always have the sacred circle that we do our ceremonies in. So unpack that a little bit for us, because the people always think, ooh, witchcraft, they're going to create a spell. They always sort of connect it to something negative.
Always.
Yeah.
Good propaganda over centuries will convince people of that.
Yeah.
So yes, witchcraft is, the word witch comes from the word Wicca, Wicce, which means wise. So witchcraft is actually the practice and the craft of the wise. So in other words, paying attention to the four directions, those elemental energies, the air as our breath, the earth as our body, the fire as our passion, the water as our blood. We live the elementals within ourselves, and they are outside of ourselves as well. So witchcraft, like Native American spiritualities, are life-affirming worldviews, life-affirming philosophies, ways of walking upon this earth, where we recognize the life in all things. It's a bit of that animism, where the life in the world, the earth is alive and responding to us. There's a constant conversation that's happening in the natural and the supernatural worlds. So with spellcrafting, yes, you begin by creating a circle, and the circle sets the container, and that circle serves many, many purposes. For one, it establishes that place that we're doing our magic on as holy ground. So this is holy ground. We are holding this space as where we will do our practice, where we will connect. And the reason it's holy, because we are connecting with the Great Spirit and that Great Spirit within ourselves. And then setting the container also eliminates the distractions of the outer world. You know, what has come before, what happened in your day, what might be going on tomorrow. It brings you to the present moment, and it authenticates the moment for magic and miracles. This is a place where it's almost like between a live and a dream space, you know, like a meditative space, right? Where anything can happen. And so the first thing, though, in terms of casting or creating or writing your own spells, begins with the desire and the intention. So the first thing that's important is to get quiet, to be still, because let's say that we, really wanted a new job and we needed an income stream, and that's what we were going to cast a spell for this. That's very vague. We just need a new job. But if we actually really think of our intentions, and our intentions are, I need to provide security for my family. I want a job with meaning. I would like to have a mentor in my job, or I would like to be mentoring somebody. When we get really specific about our motivations, then that clarity of intention is what the universe is going to respond to. When we have this kind of vague sense of, this is kind of what I want, then we get kind of what we want. So when we're very specific, and then so once we have this specificity and we understand our motivation and exactly where it's coming from, then we begin to look around for symbols that are representing of those aspects. So for example, sticking with this idea of a job, if we were doing it for security, and maybe if you understood the chakras and you know that the root chakra is about security, you might put a red cloth on your altar because this is about security. Maybe you needed money, so you throw some coins on the altar. Let's say you wanted it to have meaning. So whatever might mean that for you, so myself, I might put a white candle so that there's that positive energy, that light energy that's always moving through me at work, and not kind of this, oh my gosh, what am I doing? But I'm feeling of service in the work that I do. So these are the examples that you find in the world that represent. So to me, spells are like prayers in 3D. So it's kind of like when we do a collage board and we're like, okay, put a brand new house in the middle, put some, a symbol for a new friend or a new love, or a picture or words that represent something, that speak to that part of our brain that doesn't worry how we're going to get something done. It just moves forward to get something done. Like in our dreams, we don't wonder why, how did we start flying all of a sudden? We just accept it. And when we're in this dreamy state of creating magic, it's that same kind of thing we want to get to. And the final thing, after we have our motivation, we have the symbols that represent our desire. And then we write a rhyme or a chant that brings this thing for us. I need a job, please bring to me. I need some prosperity. I need security from my loves and myself. Please help me I don't know. I can't come up with all the rhymes right now. I was just making it off the cuff. But so then you have this rhyme, because that rhyme speaks to our right brain. That rhyme speaks to, again, that part of our brain that allows for creativity, allows for imagination, doesn't need the four walls, just needs the directive. And then the universe can bring to us those things and manifest what we're looking for based on this kind of like 3-dimensional prayer that we put together. And so and when we do this work, when we create this altar and we cast a circle around us, or we set a container of magical energy, and we do our meditative work and ask for our request, this spell work, this desire, this wish to come true, then what we like to do is what's called cakes and ale. We have this moment, kind of like Dia de los Muertos, where we have cake, which would be like a grain or bread, and that represents the male. And then the ale or the juice or the wine represents the flowingness of the goddess. So we have the divine male and the divine female together with us. And then, like you said, the 4 directions, welcoming in the air, the fire, the water, the north, and so I mixed it all up. East, south, west, north, air, fire, water, earth. And some people move that around, and even within the witchcraft tradition, some people see south as water, or, because maybe they live at the ocean and it's south facing. Because one of the most interesting things about magic and witchcraft is that you are always your own best teacher. So if somebody decides that blue is motivating for them and red is calming, then that's what it is. Mm-hmm. It's been one of the most interesting aspects about writing books about witchcraft, especially because my books first came out 22 years ago. And it has evolved so much, primarily through the internet, because people could practice in secret and they could learn information online without having to go to a witch shop or find a mentor. So they were able to learn these things. And the craft has then therefore gained more followers who have diversified its presentation in the world and how it shows up. So for me, it's always been about connecting to all of life, which, like you said, is a very native, indigenous way of approaching the world, to look upon everybody from the plants to the wild animals to the wind itself as having equal representation of spirit. We have no dominion over any of these other life forms. We are coexisting in one member of a larger community.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. And that is so indigenous. One thing I might add, not that anybody could add to what you just said, it was so incredibly inclusive, but was that one thing that we like to do in the very beginning is the circle, just honor the circle itself as being the first seed, being reminiscent of the first seed of life. And that opens the door for anything, like you said, all things to come in from that first seed, from the many different diverse people that partake in it will bring forth their own seeds. And it's like plants. When you put plants together, the more diverse the garden, the more abundant the harvest. And, people don't realize that, it has to be all in rows and all cultivated and dug out and one by one. Honestly, plants love to network. Plants love diversity. And I think people are the same. And if we could recognize that we're all the same, no matter our color, no matter our creed, no matter whether we're Wiccan, whether we're Native, Chinese, whatever it is, we're all human beings.
And our diversity makes us stronger, because that's what we find in nature. The diversity itself makes us stronger.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say, because I believe through diversity comes unity. And that's a lot of what comes through in my book, and is the unity. And people say, yeah, but we're different. We're there this way and we're that. I said, you're still human. Mm-hmm. So,
and I appreciate what you said about honoring the circle, because the other aspect that that is recognized for me at least, is that the circle magic is the first step in magic, creating the circle together, us, everybody, all the participants making that circle and forming that circle. It is an embodiment of the lessons of a circle. And it is the first time that many people are going to perceive what happens in collective energy.
Yeah.
It's like the bundle of sticks that are stronger together, or the many candle lights that are stronger together, and more powerful together. And that collective and focused energy that holds the circle space is sometimes the first step or the first opportunity for people to even experience what anyone might. And we call it all different things, right? Whether we call it magic, whether we call it synergy, whether we call it creation, whatever we decide to call it, it's still this vibrational movement, and we can all sense it, especially as we collectively hum or sing or dance or chant or drum together.
Yes.
We can feel the power rising with our unity.
Yes. The operative word being together.
Exactly.
Whatever it is we do together. Yeah, beautiful.
Yes, thank you.
Also, on your website, I read this. It really struck me. And it said, actually, Conchetta, you read this for me.
Sure. Okay. Let me come in here on the mic. Allow yourself to be a channel for all the goodness inherent in your being and the universe. Be gentle on yourself. There's only one you, and we need you.
So that fits to me, along with what we were just talking about, everybody being part of the sacred circle, everybody's beingness being, although unique, an essential refraction on that gem, if you will, that we all form together.
Yes, one of my favorite lessons for that, because my children are now, my sons are now 23 and almost 25. So when I was raising them, I always got the spirituality books, right? So one of the books I got was called The Little Soul in the Sun. And it was a children's book based off of Neil Donald Walsh, Conversations with God. And so it was talking about this little soul that wanted to experience what it meant to be forgiveness, and talking about how it's a light and wanted to experience itself as different from the light, and talking about how, and the God source was saying that you are all the light. You are only light. But the spirit child wanted to experience itself, experience just its own uniqueness. And the God source was saying, without you, the sun is less than the sun. The lights are less than the lights, without every single soul involved. And I truly believe that I was actually raised in the Christian Science faith. So I was raised in this idea of mind over matter, and kind of a much more focus on the spirituality versus the mundane world. So that's something I've had to work through. But one of the teachings of that is that the sun, that we are all rays of light from the sun. So we are individual expressions from the same source. And to me, that combination of all our lights is what makes that sun or that light energy so bright and so unique and so multifaceted. And without that diversity, without those unique expressions, it's less, the whole is less than it can be. And I always feel very adamant about helping people to recognize how important they are, because I feel so many people are mired in a sense of smallness. And I feel like we're conditioned to feel that way by bigger corporations and bigger organizations and governments. And I just always rally against that and want to look people dead in the eye and just say, you are important. Thank you for your breath today. Thank you for, walking upon this earth with us. And that to me is so important, to empower people to see their own inner wisdom and their own inner light.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I find it just, it's so important. And we have a tendency, especially, when everything was happening with, right before everything came down, right before George Floyd and the pandemic and all that, the craziness of 2020 happened. I had traced my family lineage to Spain to go to this castle in the countryside outside of Barcelona in the region of Catalonia, and visit this castle and kind of touch base, because what was happening where I live where I live in Southern California, I am 10th generation Southern California. My ancestors owned the very first Spanish ranchos in Orange County. And there was a lot of pride with that. There was a lot of, oh, that's so amazing. Oh my gosh, you're this, that, the other thing. A lot of praise over it, because there's not a lot of people who can trace their generations in California past 4 generations, usually kind of, that's like the max kind of a thing, the 1800s. And our family came in the 1700s. And since they're Mexicans and Spanish, they produce a lot. So there was a lot of generations. But in any case, there was so much pride in this specialness. There was so much belonging in being unique as the first, no matter where you go, there's so much localism and so much pride in how many years have you been here? How long does your family go back, and how deep, as if none of us, like some of us just popped up suddenly, like we've all been evolving from somewhere, from, and indigenous to some land, it's somewhere. Even if it goes back 50,000 years, we do have this matriarchal lineage, this mitochondrial DNA, this mother's line that will take us deep, deep into our connection with the earth. And so I went to Spain, and what was happening is we were having a water battle here, and they're stealing Los Angeles, city of Los Angeles, stole the water rights up here and where I live in the Eastern Sierra, little over 100 years ago. And those rights allow them to take as much water as they want. And they allow them to not have to leave anything for the native people here, for the land, for the flora, for the land, for anything. So I went with a vial of water in my backyard. I took it to Spain. I carried it. I took it on top of the castle where this ancestor was one of the very first to be a colonizer here. And this has been something that I had been looking, like, I thought it was so neat to have this long heritage. And then I realized as I was pouring this water, and I asked that the thirst of the conquerors and the colonizers, that their thirst be slaked, and that they take no more than their share. And I poured this little tiny water that comes from the Eastern Sierra on top of a castle of an ancestor who was one of the soldiers who defended the Padres and held the Indians at gunpoint as they built the city of Los Angeles. I was trying to turn the circle full backwards. And it was in that moment that I realized all the small, tiny ways that I might hold sway over somebody else. If as a mother, I might say something snarky to my kid because I can. If you're in a store and you're the customer and you get to be snarky to the clerk because you quote unquote can, and you're allowed because the customer is always right. How many times do we abuse our power in small ways? And how can I return to this humbleness and not be proud of something as silly as how long my ancestry goes back to a particular area that a lot of people want to live in? It doesn't really matter. What matters is this unity. What matters is always treating people as if their light is one of the most important things on the planet, because it is. Mm-hmm. And that was a big lesson that I learned. And this little spell work that had a little bit of vengefulness to it, a little bit of anger to it, but that spell rebounded on me. And I saw the colonizer within myself. How many small ways, and I don't mean in huge ways, I don't do mean things, but how many small unconscious ways am I not treating somebody always with the utmost of respect, or just recognizing their true value in every small way. And so I feel like when the incident with George Floyd happened, that was really kind of solidified the importance for me of valuing every life form as so important, carrying out the spiders and the bugs in the house and bring them outside and talking to my plants and feeding my crystals moonlight and just being very present to every circle, every moment that I'm in, and giving you complete respect, giving you total attention. I've gone back to my body work. I'm doing massage again. I'm paying attention to the healing, to the people's body, to what is each effect of each of our responses and our attention, and how much that matters. Our people don't realize sometimes how much their intention affects. It's like, I don't know if you ever read the book or saw the movie, like Water for Chocolate.
Mm-hmm. Love that.
You love it, right? So that was the focus of that book sat on my desk while I wrote the Wicca cookbook, because I really feel that intention is a major ingredient, from cooking to just how we live our life. Mm-hmm. And that focus on it is really the practice for me of witchcraft, reminding me, bringing me back to my intentionality, and that I do hold the paintbrushes to the canvas of my life. I'm the one who's creating it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much so. I mean, food embodies emotion. So it's important to be in that state of love and lovingness when you make food, because then it's medicine. If you're doing the other, then it's could be dangerous.
Yes. And I also make my own medicine from herbs that either I grow or, and so that's the same thing, where like you're making your medicine for that purpose. And for me too, I think it's really important, speaking back to recognizing and honoring all life forms. I feel like a lot of people now are using essential oils, and maybe they're like, throwing that lavender into their diffuser, or whatever it is, to create a calm environment. But I would like more people to consider the lavender plant, to have a vision of it for a moment, even, to thank that plant for giving its essential oils, its life force, so that you could be calm. Mm-hmm. And I also feel that these life forms also have their own magneticism. And so it's kind of like the law of attraction in reverse, so that it's not just us remembering the tools that we have in our medicine cabinet, whether it's a bunch of teas or tinctures or essential oils, but maybe that lavender is calling us into its state of calm. Kind of like Rumi's quote, "That which you seek is also seeking you." Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I like to think of that as when I work, because I work with a lot of plant allies, that when I, feel drawn to a plant, it's that plant is calling me. It's not just me, oh, here you are in the cupboard kind of a thing. It's that sense, that it's calling you. You hear that language and you respond to it, because it's an energetic vibrational language. It's not always kind of this, hey, Jamie, would you like to take some lavender now? How about some peppermint tea? It's really you're kind of drawn in through from your heart, because it's your heart to heart speaking with all these other life forms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I believe my teachers taught me that the plants that you need will grow around you.
I love it when a volunteer plant, maybe just pops up in your garden, mm-hmm. and it suddenly, nettles suddenly starts growing, and you recognize that you're low on iron. And yes, then the plant appears. And that just happened to me. We recently bought some an old marijuana farm, actually, in mm-hmm. Mendocino County. And I was talking about, there's so many herbs that I would like to grow, and nettles was one of them. And honestly, the very next time we went to visit, nettles was growing all around, just like you said, just like your teacher said. Mm-hmm. That's such a nourishing plant that is one of my favorites. And I was so excited that I really was like, oh, this is really important. I really want to work with nettles. And then it just started growing for me. It was, in the herbal community, we call those plant allies. I'm not mm-hmm. sure if that's something, a term, plant or herbal allies. And often we'll have, a couple that work really good with our constitution. And those are the ones we tend to gravitate towards a lot. And mm-hmm. I love the idea of empowering ourselves with that ability to heal, because I believe that we can do that, but we also need guidance from doctors such as you, guidance when we've lost our way and forgotten that those tools are in our cabinets, or those tools are within ourselves to heal ourselves. And I find it so empowering to have practitioners such as yourself who are always looking for, as you said, the light and the unity, and bringing us back into wholeness, because that's how we heal, right? Is bringing ourselves into wholeness.
Yeah, the first step, well, in the East, you mentioned the East, is awareness. That's like the first step in the medicine wheel, because if you're not aware of these plants that are growing up around you, you know, and then you're not going to notice, well, they're there in the first place, but they're energies. And then you'll start to feel their energies, you know, like my whole house is surrounded with different kinds of herbs, rosemary, mint, you know, even, horrible. Are you familiar with horehound? Yeah, it's a lung herb, and actually the leaves look like little lungs. And it turned out someone came into my life that needed lung medicine, and because I'm like, well, wait a minute, I don't need this. Well, it's not just all about you. You know? So that became very useful when he came, and now he's much better because of it. So
isn't that wonderful? See, and that's one of the things I love too, is that the doctrine of signatures is a term that's been used to when we give herbs, when they look like a thing and they get named like it, like bladderwort. Looks like it's bladder shaped. So we name it for that thing, or the thing that it helps. So for example, here we have a lot of aspen, quaking aspen, trembling aspen, and the leaves shimmer, you know, and so early medical or herbalist who were looking for medicinal purposes, they would look at the different herbs and their actions as well as their shape to see if that would match either a bodily function or something that, like, so for example, the trembling of aspen leaves inspired herbalists to consider, and they did for years, use aspen to help palsy, because that was the movement that it was making.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's cool. I love that. I know when we would go and procure the Sundance tree for Sundances, the cottonwood tree, it would make those rustling sounds, and to say, I'm the one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then so we would know the one. And I think it's also probably was reminiscent of the energy of the Sundance, you know, because it does shake up your spirit and shake up your whole beingness, so that you can become someone else. Maybe you know, you drop that you no longer need, and you evolve, and you get that vision that humanity needed to come through you, so that you can serve in a higher way. And that cottonwood tree gets all excited when it sees that. So.
No, I agree. I used to tell my sons when we would harvest, because when I was looking for a Native American, and I felt so strong to my indigenous roots that I back before Ancestry.com, I was ordering birth and death certificates, looking to see, where's this Native American grandmother? I feel her in my bones. Where is she? You know? And so I would even, which was really crazy, going into Southern California, Native ceremonies and whatnot, trying to, you know, ask for these things. And, you know, all that I knew was that my ancestors had killed their ancestors. You know, that's all I knew. Right. And yet there I was, and there was an elder who took me under his wing, and he brought me to pictographs and bear ceremonies and naming ceremonies and full moon ceremonies. And So I taught my boys when we're harvesting, wild harvesting, like, whatever it is that we might be out there collecting for mugwort, for sage, for bundles, or for burning, or whatever it might be, that we ask the tree, the plant, whatever, which leaf am I supposed to take? Which branch am I supposed to take? And in that same way, it trembles, or it sends out that energy, and you're like, this one, and then it breaks off easier. The one that you want is versus like tearing at it and stripping this long thing off the plant with, and then giving back. And I remember the first time I went collecting with my boys, I said, okay, we're going to give back. You can give, I have a little bit of tobacco here. You can sprinkle, you could give one a hair, you could pluck off a hair, or you can give your own spit. And of course, my boys were at the time like 3 and 5. They're like, I can spit on the plant and it's going to be happy. I was like, sure. So they were like spitting. They just thought that was the neatest thing ever, but just really, and I was just writing about this. I kept my youngest son's placenta, and we buried it under an aloe vera plant. And the reason we did that was twofold, because one, his DNA was actually going to go into that aloe from the placenta. So our combination was going to be, our blood was going to be nourishing this plant, this aloe plant, that not only helps us with burns and digestion and other things that it does, but it also propagates so easily. So we were able to, for this plant, we have transplanted, it has babies. It's all over this country right now. This aloe plant has gone to my friends, my aunties and uncles and grandparents and friends of myself and my son. And he has this aloe plant, and he has the mother plant.
I want some.
23 years later.
I want some.
I'll have to send you some. It's amazing. I'm even growing it here at 7,000 feet elevation. This aloe.
And it's a great emollient. It's a great GI medicine, too. So.
Yeah. So I just, and bringing in the entire family into the practice. That's the thing about life affirming worldviews and spiritualities and philosophies and ways of living, that it's easy to bring children into them. It's easy to explain to a child, we're going to go to the beach when the moon is full. We're going to that's what I would do. I would give them, 3 more days when you don't see any more of the moon, that's when we're going to do this. So they understood time in that larger way of cycles versus like the tick of the clock.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And I really like doing that. I felt like that was really empowering. And then seasonal altars to honor whatever aspect of the season that we're currently in, so that they, again, feel part of that unity and not separate from it, because they brought that altar into their home and they've collected the items from outside, whether it was pine cones or rocks or flowers, to bring to an altar, that it's all part of your life. It's not something that you only do on Sunday.
I love that you taught your family that, because I learned that on my own or from my native teachers, but not in my family. So that's a beautiful thing that you can pass down to us, to other people through your work, to share that. That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
I love it.
You've just shared so much with us. Couldn't be more grateful to you for that. And through your work, through just who you are and all of these teachings and just this podcast too. Thank you. So I know a lot of people are going to be interested in it. So tell people how they can get in touch with you and continue this work.
Okay.
Going forward. And
I appreciate that. My website is Jamie Della, Jamie Della, Della at that's my website, jamiedella.com. And then, but people can reach me either through the website, on social media, on Facebook and Instagram. I'm Jamie Della Writes. And so those are 2 ways to reach me. My current cookbook right now is called The Book of Spells, The Magic of Witchcraft. I still was still in print is the Wicca cookbook, which came out in 2000. And then I have a new book coming out next year with Sounds True publication, will be called Box of Magic. And that is about the strength, the power of mentorship and the constant conversation that's going on in the natural and supernatural worlds.
Nice.
So yeah, so those are the.
So something I've been dying to ask you, and then I want to ask you a very special question. So, okay, you mentioned the Wicca cookbook. So what is different about Wicca cooking? Not that I couldn't guess, but and like regular cooking.
Right, exactly. Well, there's nothing different with the exception of the intentionality, right? Like we were talking about having intention during your cooking. And then also if you're cooking for a really big meal, you could set a circle in your kitchen to hold that as a sacred space. So we think the intentionality is the first thing. Aside from that, it's just cooking. But the reason it's a Wicca cookbook is because it's a potluck for the Sabbats. For the there's 8 holy days or holidays, or holy days or holidays. They're pagan celebrations. So they're the solstices and the equinoxes, which of course we're familiar with, which show us that where the sun is. Solstice means sun stands still. So we have that at winter and summer. We have equinox, which means equal night. And that's for fall and spring. And then there are 4 other holidays that are based on planting and harvesting. So the next pagan holiday that we have coming up is called Ludnasa. And that's on August 1st and 2nd. And that's the first harvest of corn and grain. And so this cookbook is divided by the 8 holidays. And there are seasonal recipes that coincide with the holidays. So there's a couple of drinks, a couple of desserts, a couple of side dishes. So because pagan ceremonies often are potluck. So when we have our rituals, it's all often, okay, you bring the main dish, you bring a side dish. So this was a book that could help people choose what to bring based on what they were assigned or what they wanted to bring or try. And there's medieval lore that's attached to it. There's ritual for each of the recipes, or there is also, if for example, if I was doing rose hip wine, it might talk about the vitamin C in rose hip being more stronger than even oranges, so giving people nutritional information as well as magical and soulful information.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to try my next book. I'm going to make a cookbook, and it's going to be all about the medicine of food, but it's also going to be, like you said, nutritional. And then every recipe will have a story.
I love the lore.
That only that I could tell, because what inspired that recipe, where did it come from, who did it come from, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, like the movable feast, but movable medicine feast.
Nice. That's what we need. We need to remember that our food is medicine.
Right. Okay. So tell me what is next for Wicca, and number one, and if there's intertwine with that, if you would, not that you haven't already, kind of some, very take-home pearls from Jamie.
Well, what is next for Wicca? I think, what I found just recently. So at the beginning of the pandemic, I received 23 pounds of my elder Wiccan high priestess collection of her teaching curricula and all her studies, 50 years worth of her studies. So this is my next project. And one of the things I found within that collection was the 13 principles of Wiccan belief, which speak to 13 different ideas. So I feel that as witchcraft has evolved to become something that is so much more personal and so much more self-made, that sometimes we don't always do the same things. We might not say blessed be at the end. We might not say by my will so mote it be. Some people want to say, that's right, God, bring it to me right now. Like they have different ways of doing this. So I feel like what I'm going to do is, especially my next book, is really clarify what is Wicca, because it is different then there are other types and traditions. I also combine green witchcraft, or people call it hedge witchcraft. People are now, as you know, I'm sure, renaming and relabeling everything is almost like, I feel like it's a pissing contest sometimes. Just like, who can be the one to give it the latest name and then blame someone for not knowing it, you know? But I feel like really coming back to those roots about what Wicca really truly is, which, you know, it's high magic. It's magic that attunes us to the Great Spirit. It's not just about spellcrafting. So for me, I really want to convey that that's what this particular path is all about. When I wear a pentagram, which is basically the 4 elements with spirit as a 5-pointed star in the circle of life. For me, when people ask me what is my path, I didn't used to say the Wiccan path because I didn't go through the cords or the initiations. I was welcomed in by my elder high priestess because I inherently knew the information. I was taught younger. I'm an old soul, whatever the combination was. I didn't go through the initiation. I didn't go through the hierarchy. So I never called myself a Wiccan because of that. And then when I found these original principles that were written in 1974 at a witch meet of all the American witches in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I was reading these principles that really fortify what Wicca is to me, which is this development of our consciousness, this collective bringing everyone together and raising ourselves up together. That's one of the most important things for me. And that's why I find it so important to tell people all the time, you hold the paintbrushes to the canvas of your life. You're the one who chooses what you're going to bring forward. And a lot of people get scared because they hear, oh, is that law of attraction? Am I now going to be blamed for every bad thing that ever happens to me? And they run in that direction. And for me, I believe that we are spirit in human form, that this isn't our first go around. This isn't our last go around. We are not confined to this lifetime. So whatever it is, whatever gifts that we find in these hard times and in the challenging times, whatever we can focus on, that is where our magic goes. And that is one of the most important aspects of magic itself, is recognizing the intention, and not just recognizing the intention, but how does the synergy work together? How do all the magical components of your life create a harmony and create an orchestra of the way you live? And I
love that. I love that. You need to get my book. I just published it. Soul Doctrine, Heal Yourself, Heal the Planet. It is so in tune with what you're talking about right now.
Right.
And that's kind of where I end up, it's about, oneness, really. It's oneness. So thank you for that. And
thank you.
You're just fabulous. You're fabulous.
Well, so are you. I love this conversation.
I love this. I want more. All right. Well, stay in tune and, stay connected with me.
Yes.
Also, drgmrandall.com. And call me anytime.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. All right.
Have a great day.
Bye now.
Bye.
This is Dr. Gail Randall from Soul Stories, and author of Soul Doctrine, Heal Yourself, Heal the Planet. I want to thank Saltology, our sponsor, at bathsalt.com, which fits perfectly into my medicine bag as it, like me, calls upon the ancient wisdom and modern technology to heal, especially with the stresses and ills of our modern times. The Bokek brand uses organic salts combined with organic essential oils sourced from ancient Egypt to provide a perfect remedy for your bathing ritual and healing from modern stresses. The Relief RX brand is a unique one-of-a-kind healing salt that uses organic CBD, treated with a unique emulsification process to create nanoparticles which easily enter the skin to most effectively heal and relieve aching muscles and joints. Whether from chronic inflammation or just a rough workout, this is the perfect healing bath. especially when you add the organic essential oils of neroli, lavender, eucalyptus, or grapefruit. Your body, mind, and soul will be lifted and soothed like never before. Go now to bathsalt.com. I also want to give special thanks to Larry Antonino and Agora Borealis Recording Studio for music and score, and also to closetotheearth.com for IT and computer assistance. I'm Dr. Gail Randall, creator and host of Soul Stories. I just want to thank you for listening to my podcast. I recently got a notification from the International Podcast People, and I was astounded that so many countries are listening to my podcast in the category of alternative health. So thank you, and please continue to listen. I especially want to thank Egypt, Croatia, Japan, and Switzerland, also France and Ireland, because my numbers were quite high there. So keep up the good work and check out my Instagram at Dr. Gail Randall, and particularly check out my Instagram TV, where you can hear me talking about alternative medicine subjects and also see me. It's a very good show, and I think you'll like the subjects. It's on 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time every Friday, but it's recorded there, so you can find it there anytime you look. Okay, thanks again. I love you guys. Also supported by Randall Wellness Network, bringing health and wellness to you directly. Medical futurist Dr. Gail Madeleine Randall brings 40-plus years as one of America's most forward-thinking doctors, healers, and emerging authors onto a diverse media platform to empower our paths to health, wellness, increased consciousness, and vitality. Gail Madeleine Randall, MD, has long practiced, taught, and encouraged patients to take control of their healing processes and journeys. Randall Wellness Network provides a 360-degree platform for people to heal themselves, and she most emphasizes regenerative approaches for healing individuals, communities, and the planet as one. For more information, go to drgmrandall.com and Instagram at drgailrandall, and check out the robust Instagram series on Instagram TV, also Facebook, Randall Wellness, and also Dr. Gail Randall.